Hi everyone, I just wanted to repost a presentation I did yesterday over at Nutrition Science Watchdog with Bart K. You can head over to that YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribed there, go and subscribe to that channel as well if you're interested in nutrition. In this presentation, I'm talking about mineral oils that we can find in food packaging. So if you're eating any type of prepackaged food, especially in paper package like pasta, cereals, rice, those kind of things, or any tinned food, think about canned tuna, whatever, mackerel, sardines, that sort of thing, you might benefit from having a look at that video. So I'm going to repost it here now, so you can just continue watching here, or if you prefer to go and check out his channel straight away, you can watch the video over there, obviously. So you may want to check that one out and have a little think about what it is that you're actually putting in your mouth. So please enjoy. Here you go.
Well, hello, boys and girls. Welcome and thank you for joining me once again with my special guest for today. Yes, it's the very talented, very clever, and always correct Pim Jansson. Pim, how are you?
I am hot in here, thank you.
So, welcome for the first time on this channel as a presenter rather than as a kind of co-host or co-conspirator or troublemaker.
Oh, thank you very much.
Cool. So today, Pim is going to regale us with some research that she's been doing, looking into a potentially problematic issue around food packaging, isn't it, Pim?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, well, why don't you take it away and give us that, and then, if there are questions at the end, we'll come up with questions.
Okay, because you don't even know what I'm going to talk about, which is pretty cool.
I don't, no. It's a secret.
Yes, so I might be talking about how good vegetables are or something. So no, I'm going to talk about how environmentally friendly food packaging can destroy our health, just to piss Greta off. So there we go. So there's actually so much talk about how plastics are dangerous to us and how we shouldn't use plastics, and we shouldn't use plastics to put out food in, or definitely not cook in, etc. So what are we using instead? A lot of the time we are using recycled paper to produce cardboard, and that might not be the best thing to do. So I'm going to share my screen here if I can find that. So in this article from The Guardian, they're talking about how food packaging is full of toxic chemicals, God, I can't speak, and how they affect our health and blah, blah, blah. They talk about takeaway containers and how bad they can be, even the paper ones, and that they are leaking something, or they're leaking fluoride basically. So they probably are treated with something called PFAS, which is polyfluoroalkyls. And this is the same thing for different sort of bakery bags or deli papers or whatever you call them, and how they have negative health effects. And then they go down to here and say what you should buy instead. And they say the safest containers are brown or white paper boxes composed of 100% recycled paperboard, which have a seal to indicate they are compostable. So I have a huge issue with this, and I'm going to show you why. So yes, so here, this is, I have to read it like this. So this is actually in rice products or rice, and this is the estimated concentration of MOHs, which is mineral oil hydrocarbons. I'm going to explain in a bit what they are and why they're not good for us. So in almost 100%, let's say this might be, 90% of all rice tested had mineral oil hydrocarbons from the environment, maybe 60% from harvesting, and let's say this is 50% from paperboard packaging. And then you have jute bags and anti-dusting and spraying, and there are other additives that can contain that. But the paperboard packaging is actually quite a big problem, I think. So 50% of all rice tested had mineral oil hydrocarbons in them from the packaging of just paperboard packaging. And then you have those in the other bags and so on. So almost all rice tested had some level of mineral oil hydrocarbons. Now, environment might go up to like 0.5 milligram per kilo or 1 between those two. And the recommended safe limit for a 70 kilo person is about 0.7 per day, just so that you have some sort of reference for now. So this is obviously not really great. So there are many sources that are not just the cardboard packaging. I wanted to bring this up on your channel because most people here might not eat rice, or they may, but something when I was helping you out with the questions on Sundays, we got the question quite often about whether it would be a good idea or not to eat canned fish. And I always used to say that, it's fine, eat it in moderation or whatever. It's probably not a problem if you're not eating it too much. But when you produce the cans, I have found out since then, you are often using lubricants when you are producing these cans, and they contain mineral oils. So canned fish actually contains quite a lot of mineral oil hydrocarbons. So let's see. So talking about canned foods, so this was for the fish. I have highlighted this here. Most of the hydrocarbons that they found in the canned fish actually was in the edible oil. So when you buy tuna in oil, for example, most of the mineral oil hydrocarbons were in the oil. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my hands on the full article, so I just took these figures here. But I can't tell you whether it's actually safe or not to consume fish that has been in a can in water. I don't know if that means that the fish contains more of the mineral oil, or whether that actually stays in the water, which doesn't make sense. So if it's going anywhere, maybe it goes into the meat instead. So either way, you don't want your fish in contaminated oil, but on the other hand, you don't really want the fish with the mineral oil in it either. And they say that down here, mineral oil contamination of the fish was usually a minor source, but cannot be neglected. So we're talking about a minor source. What is a minor source? I don't actually know what they mean because I couldn't read the article. I didn't have access to it. So I found this from, I hope you can see somewhat. This was something they decided in Belgium in 2017. They have different limits for how many. I'm going to explain to you what MOSH is later, but that is a mineral oil. One part of it, it's actually mineral oil saturated hydrocarbons. And they think that 60 milligrams of these mineral oils per kilo of food for fish and fish products is okay. Now, I just told you that 0.7 gram for a normal 70 kilo heavy person is the limit, the safe limit. So that's pretty far under this. So I'm not really sure what to think about that, but it doesn't look great to me anyway. So let's go to this slide. So MOSH, I already said what that is. That's mineral oil saturated hydrocarbons. I don't know if you can actually see the slide because I have our little picture up here in the corner, but anyway, they accumulate in the body and they can cause something called microgranuloma. So that's basically a site in your tissue where you have a lot of immune cells, a lot of immune activity because there is inflammation. So clearly they cause inflammation where they are accumulated. And if they're all together in some sort of tissue, if that is in your heart, you might be in big trouble because you might get a heart infection. I don't know. Or you might destroy the liver, your lymph nodes, whatever it is. So that doesn't sound great to me. And this is something that we actually store throughout our lives. So we just accumulate, and we don't really get rid of them very easily. And then you have something else called MOA, which is mineral oil aromatic hydrocarbons. And they are endocrine disruptors, but they're also suspected to cause cancer because they alter DNA. So you might be familiar with something called, what are they called? Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, that you get when you are frying and grilling things, barbecuing, etc. And how they are dangerous. Yes, so those that you get when you're barbecuing actually consist of just rings of carbon rings, full of them. The MOAs are actually pretty much straight carbon chains with one aromatic ring on at least. So they're different, but they are equally toxic. So you don't really want them in your diet whatsoever. And so these are the two basic ones that they are looking for. There are other mineral oils as well that aren't necessarily measured, and I don't know how dangerous they are because I haven't actually had time to look into them, but they're probably not great. So when we're talking about mineral oils, these are chains of carbon atoms, and they range from very few carbon atoms up to 60, 70, whatever, I don't know. But those that we are interested in are usually between 10 and 35 carbons long. Those are the ones that we absorb and that we store. If they are larger than 35 carbons, we don't really absorb them very well, so they're probably not a huge problem for us. So we don't have to worry too much about them. So when we think about the paper packaging, why is it full of mineral oil hydrocarbons, you might be asking? And that is because, especially when we are recycling something, you have printing ink on the cardboard boxes, you recycle it into new cardboard boxes, and you have residue of this printing ink all over the place. So just plain ink contains 3,000 ppm hydrocarbons compared to the 0.7 that we are allowed to have. Milligrams per kilo is the same as ppm. So you will always have that. And the thing is that migrates into the food really, really quickly. After about 5 to 6 weeks, having something like stored rice or cereal or whatever in a cardboard box that is made out of recycled material, all of the mineral oil hydrocarbons in the packaging has migrated to the food. So it takes about a month or a month and a half, and all of it is in the food, which is pretty scary if you ask me. And I had no clue about this until very recently. So that's why I thought I want to share this with you. The longer hydrocarbons that are above 28 carbons, we don't have to worry so much about them migrating because they're slower, but it still does happen. So let's have a look about what FoodWatch is saying about that. Right, so let's have a look at what FoodWatch has to say. This is an organization that basically is watching the legislation about what's in our foods and protecting consumer rights in Europe. So they have tested a lot of products for mineral oils. So I'm not going to show you all of it because not all of it is that interesting. So first of all, I already told you about this, but mainly it comes from recycled cardboard packaging. And the interesting thing here is that it can be transferred from so if you have a packaging that is made from what they call virgin carbon, it is not recycled. You can still get mineral oils into the food. And first I didn't really know what was causing this, but if the smaller packages are in a large box full that is made of recycled cardboard, it will migrate from that into the virgin cardboard and then into the food. So there's like, you need to have some sort of barrier between them to protect you. So when you have like an inert plastic bag, which we shouldn't have, then you actually don't get them in your food. So that's kind of interesting. And then also lubricants for food production and some agents that they add to bakeries and dust binders, adhesives for food, all those sorts of things often contain mineral oils as well. And when you test, yes, I already told you about this, so we don't need to talk about that again. So they tested 120 products in, I think it was Germany, Netherlands, and France. And they found mineral oils in 100 out of the 120 products. So that was in 83% of them. They actually had the MOSH part, so that's the saturated hydrocarbons. And 43%, or 52 out of 120, contained the carcinogenic MOA. And that's quite scary, because that's a lot, in my opinion. Especially if you're someone who's eating cereal for breakfast or porridge, or then you have rice for dinner or pasta. You're going to eat mineral oils all day long, pretty much.
Right. So this is happening despite any inner sealed plastic inner lining that these foods are in, or?
No. If they have an inner plastic lining, they are usually safe.
Okay.
But the problem now is that everyone's moving away from plastic, so there's probably a growing problem. We want to recycle everything, because that's obviously environmentally friendly. So focus is a lot on doing that, and that can have ramifications for our health.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Cool. You're welcome. So that's the next thing. I was just about to get to it. So they have some demands that they want functional barriers to be mandatory for all paper packaging in case of recycled papers. And even when you think that the container is safe, you need to be able to prove that it is, and that there is nothing coming in anywhere in the production chain, basically. And they require that there shouldn't be any MOA at all. That's the aromatic ones, the carcinogenic ones, traceable in any food at all, just because it is much more dangerous than the saturated ones. However, there is currently no laws around it. It's all quite new, and they have been monitoring certain food items since 2017. So that's three-ish years, 2-3 years, something, to see where it's at. So at the moment, we are kind of screwed. So I'm just going to show you some of the results anyway, and I have a problem with what they've done here, because they have using this little traffic light signal. So they have high contamination, they have medium, no detectable or low contamination, but that includes anything below 2 milligrams per kilo, and that is not detectable. They might consider that low, but if you eat a kilo of this food, so let's say you eat a kilo of cucumber or bananas, like the 30 days bananas a day guy, you're fucked. So I just had a little quick look on the first one, and I was squaring them in. So this one is not safe, this one's not safe, this one's not safe, this one's not safe, because they recommend, I say WHO and some other organization recommend that there is never to be more than 0.6 grams in any single food item per kilo. And all of these that are red, that are approved according to the test, are actually higher than that. So I don't know if you want to have a look at these lists. It can get quite boring. It's 120 items, but
I don't know. Do a scan through. It might be quite interesting for people to see some of these items.
So this is obviously Germany. So these are German things. Germany is doing fairly well. The Netherlands, if you're Dutch, I'm watching this, run away. Yeah, so spaghetti. Can you see this picture very well on your computer?
Yeah, well enough.
Okay. So we have a few things here that are non-detectable. There's some lasagna, and it seems like pasta is usually okay for some reason. Not that one though, to be fair. And you have some corn products, etc. Not too bad, but you know, when you get the aromatic ones, you're wondering what the hell, why? It's awful. And cornflakes is the Kellogg's cornflakes, by the way. Does even more now to what do we say, without being rude, to sterilize men. Okay, there we go. I said it.
Cool.
Give them balls cancer.
This channel, I mean, as everybody knows, this channel is well known for being sensitive and considerate and caring about our verbiage.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And that's why I think that most people might know about the history of Kellogg's cornflakes.
Yes.
Yes. So, anyway, let's move on, because we could spend all day looking at these 120 food items. So let's have a look at the Dutch ones. I feel a bit sorry for the Dutch guys. So compared to like the German rice, we see a lot more red and yellow, but even the green ones are all but one or two are actually too high, according to their guidelines. But who says that their guidelines are actually safe? How do we know? We don't. And this is just appalling. 27 and a half and 133. What the actual fuck? Jumbo spaghetti in the Netherlands, just don't do it.
Wow.
What can I say? That's some crazy numbers there on both accounts. But you know, when we come to the aromatic ones, 5. I wouldn't want to do that. 27 and a half, 5 is really, really not worth it. Got some more. Actually, for some reason, Kellogg's cornflakes didn't score too bad in the Netherlands. So I guess they use different suppliers for their packaging than they do in Germany. And yeah, got some sad faces here. Don't do porridge, clearly. Not in the Netherlands anyway. It looks pretty dire. I don't even know what this is. Grease meal. I guess that's some sort of, I don't even want to guess.
Sounds delightful, doesn't
it? Yeah. Oh, I can't speak Dutch, so excuse my accent. Now we go to France. France is kind of somewhere in the middle. It's not as good as Germany, but it's not as bad as the Netherlands. Fairly green. Some dips, but here with the bloody cereals, where did they come from? And why so much of the aromatic ones? I don't really know. Same here. So there's something going on here in France. I don't really know what they're doing, but actually this one is pretty awful. So don't do the lentils in France. Yeah? Are we happy with that?
Yeah, cool. So that's right. A little bit worrying potentially, isn't it?
It is. I think so anyway. So here we go. Let's stop sharing that one. And do you have any questions so far? Or
well, I mean, the questions that come to mind are the ones around how much in the way of any kind of work has been done around what would be required to protect food from this contamination. I mean, plastic might work, for example, for that purpose, but we all know plastics are not exactly ideal to put anywhere near food either. So what are we supposed to do here?
I don't really think people know. So they want some sort of barrier in between the recycled paper and the food, but what barrier is actually good? I mean, even when you get the the good plastics that don't contain the things that we don't want. After a few years, they realize that there's something else in there that we don't want that might be equally bad or worse. So clearly, stop eating fucking processed food.
So it's almost like what we're suggesting here is that the best foods are potentially those that you get that don't come with packaging.
Yeah, one might think so.
Meat would seem to be up there on that list mostly.
Yeah, I mean, fresh fish is probably good. I can't see why. I mean, it wouldn't have had time to be contaminated, even if it was. You don't put fish in a paper bag because that wouldn't work very well. But in theory, if it's fresh and it hasn't been in there long, it's probably not a huge problem. But you know, the longer it goes, the longer.
I wonder how safe butcher's paper might be.
Well, it depends on if it's treated or not. I think butcher's paper is probably wax treated or something.
Yeah, I was
that
going to
could
say.
be in the way. And in that case, I assume that it's fairly safe.
So maybe, subject to confirmation at a later stage, the best thing to do would be to go to your local butcher and have your local butcher supply you with a bunch of meat which is wrapped in butcher's paper for your eating pleasure.
Maybe
not worry so much about the other stuff.
But having said that, wax is a sort of fat, and that might in itself be contaminated with mineral oils. So paraffin is a mineral oil, for example.
So that's why I'm saying subject to confirmation, because I mean, I guess what we're talking about here clearly is volatile ones, because you're talking about it moving from one phase to another phase.
Oh, even the saturated ones go.
My Hatchism Street.
Disgraceful.
I know. We've got to have some kind of standards, don't we?
So yeah, I can't give you the answer to that right now.
Okay.
It's above my pay grade, I guess.
All right. Well, we'll have you report back on that then, I think, at a later date.
Do I get homework? Yeah. Yes. So anyway, there are very, very few countries that have actually paid attention to this until recently. I don't think they do pay attention to this in America at all at the moment, other than from guidelines from the WHO, etc. So the first thing that actually happened was in 2017. It was the European Food Safety Authority, EFSA. They requested that the member states monitor a number of foods, and some of those foods are fish and fish products and animal fats and different oils, lots of bakery chocolates, canned food, canned fish, oils, seeds and grains for human consumption, and a few others. So there are now.
That's good.
You're not distracting at all with your hat. There are now some sort of, they are not regulations, but there's still some sort of guidelines, and you're getting monitored. So people are, when you're buying things, the buyers usually starting to request that it goes on the certificate of analysis that is not containing too much. So we're moving towards a shift in the safety there, but I'm still concerned about the levels. If you're allowed to have 60 milligrams in a kilo of fish, that is a lot. So you can get away with a lot of it. So now let me share again. This is what I was going to share now, the moustache, because we're going to get over to some numbers.
Ah, good, yes, and you need a moustache for numbers.
So the FAO is what they call, and the WHO. So FAO is the can't remember what they call, the Food Additives Organization, probably, or something like that. They have decided that there is a tolerable daily intake of 0.01 milligrams per kilo of body weight for a person, and that no food should contain more than 0.6 milligrams per kilo. So with some simple maths and a moustache, you can calculate that a person weighing 70 kilos or 154 pounds shouldn't consume more than 0.7 milligrams of mineral oil hydrocarbons per day. So let's take the fish example, just because I'm a bit upset about that.
Okay.
And I don't even eat fish, but it's one of the foods that I usually tell people is good. So I feel like I'm a bit responsible there. So if we are allowed to have 60 milligrams per kilo of MOSH, that is the saturated hydrocarbons, and I'm assuming that one serving of fish is approximately 150 grams. If you are a carnivore, it might be 2 or 3 times that. You will get 9 grams of mineral oil hydrocarbons in one serving. And that is 13 times more than the recommended safe limit per day. And that is what they think is okay in terms of selling fish. That's how much you're allowed to have. At the same time as these guys are recommending a safe limit of 0.7, unless you're real fatty. If you weigh 700 kilos, then you are just above the limit, because then you can have 7 grams. But I don't know anyone weighing 700 kilos. I don't even know if anyone's ever been alive that is that heavy, unless you're a mammoth or something.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, I'm not giving much for those safe limits in the foods, because we are eating. I'm usually against the serving, but this is a good example of where we might want to look at serving sizes and actually keep them realistic and say, okay, maybe we don't want more than 0.3 grams in a serving or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to have a go at rice as well. So I know that I've seen a lot of people on your channel that do exercise and they eat a lot of rice. So I thought that might be interesting for them. So rice contains roughly, an average, tested rice contains roughly 15.4 milligrams of MOSH and 4 milligrams of MOA. And I missed a space there. Per kilo. Anyway.
Oh, it's hard to get good help, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So one serving of rice is about 90 grams, unless you're a bodybuilder and think that you need 3 times that. But, that's what we call a serving. And that would be 1.39 grams of MOSH and 0.36 milligrams of MOA. And MOA is the ones that they think shouldn't be traceable in the food with the equipment we have today to detect them. That's basically how they worded it. So if our detection limits are going down so that we can detect smaller limits, then maybe they will have to reassess that. So anyway, one serving of rice would be 1.75 milligrams of mineral oils. So that is 2.5 times the recommended safe limit. So that is just the rice. And then you eat your canned fish on top of that and you're really screwed. So I'm actually concerned about that. But my recommendation would be to just, go with the fresh, real food and stop eating anything that is processed, that is packaged in anything. Just go with anything that doesn't have a packaging and do your thing that way. So that was all I had to say on the topic.
Okay, very, very good. I think we've done questions as we've gone along pretty well. Yep, it's something that we do all, I think, as consumers need to keep an eye on in a very, very careful way. Luckily, most of us carnivores are not consuming a lot of anything that's packaged up in this way. One of the ways that you can look at it is to think about shopping only really around the outside wall of the supermarket and not down any of the middle aisles, pretty much. But we still think that you should avoid too much in the way of plant matter in your diet for other reasons. Even vegetables and fruits taken off the fruit vegetable stand there in the supermarket that don't have packaging. They're not good for you for other reasons. So this is not permission, if you like, to go and do that. So Okay, good. Thanks, Pim, very much for bringing that to
welcome.
our attention. It is a concern. It's something we should all get militant and active about. I think we should all be writing to our local member of parliament or our local congressman or whatever we do. I think we should maybe go and speak to the United Nations and say things like, how dare you, and stuff.
How dare you
Yes.
use recycled carbon.
That's it.
Cardboard. I can't even carbon. It's too hot. I'm dying.
Yeah, it's fairly hot in here as well.
It's the global warming.
It is that global warming, isn't it? Yes, global. Well, it's not perhaps global warming more. It's house warming by virtue of there being sun streaming through the windows. Yes, good. Okay, so hey, thank you very much for coming on the channel for your first adventure into being the presenter rather than, as I say, being a co-conspirator and a troublemaker, which is what you were supposed to be doing in the first place. You did that really well. You did this really well as well, of course, and that's what I expected because I know you're a smart cookie. Folks, if you are not subscribed to Pim's channel, subscribe now. She's good stuff. Go and do it. Thank you. Right. Also, feel free to donate lots of money on Streamlabs to us or on Super Chats on Saturday night, Sunday morning, depending where you are in the world for the live stream, to pay for the video because it's demonetized. Because the number of times the presenters both said fuck. Which was going to happen in a video between you and I, though, wasn't it?
6.
Yes, it was always going to happen. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. Yes, and thank you for subscribing to Pim's fucking channel, fucking now.
You're putting it in the description so it's easy for people to find, yeah?
I will do that for you, yes.
Because they can never spell my name.
No.
It's very easy, Pim Jansson.
It's PIMJANSSON.
Yes, O-N.
But
and double S.
I'll link it down there.
Super easy.
Underneath the video. It'll be there in the description. So, there you go. Awesome. Okay. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
All right. See you later.
Bye.